president's in the process of evaluating options about what has been, as you know, Tucker, we both lived through it in the last 2 decades, what has been an 18-year conflict in Afghanistan, and determining what our best options are in terms of putting America first.
Vice President Mike Pence hinting at a slowdown to withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan. So where does this leave the president's defense strategy and America's national security? Joining us now to react is Michael O'Hanlon from the Brookings Institution. First of all, how do you interpret the vice president's comments? Do you think that he definitely speaks for the president, or is this a broader viewpoint? What do you think?
Good afternoon. Well, I heard a lot of vagueness, so I think that the vice president was wise to allow himself to be speaking for himself, but also the president, by virtually saying nothing that was binding and reminding people that this has been a long war, a frustrating war, but also at the same time that America has interests. He didn't get into what those are. I think they're primarily counterterrorism interests, preventing another al-Qaeda or ISIS-launched attack from Afghan territory, or an attack on Pakistan's nuclear weapons from that same area. So the vice president could have gone into that as well, but then he would have been sort of leaning forward, suggesting that we're probably going to stay. So I think he did the minimum to seem to answer the question, but not to commit in any direction.
So the president, you know, of course, said that he was taking troops out of Afghanistan and Syria. It was a campaign promise. At the same time, you know, those who have supported him and you know, many generals and many in the military lined up to say that wasn't a good idea. In your mind, does he strike you as someone who would reconsider after being given advice by people he normally listens to, but he's also someone who, you know, when he says something and he makes a promise, he doesn't like to change it?
You know, I'm not a supporter of President Trump, but I still think the answer to your question is yes. I have seen him reconsider on a lot of issues in the 2 years that he's been in the White House. He was not a fan of many U.S. alliances when he came in, but he kept those. He was not a fan of NAFTA, and he modified that, but he took his time to do so. You know, he doesn't like to completely reverse course, but when he has different promises, as many politicians do, not just Mr. Trump, that are in some tension with each other, then he spends some time wrestling with them. So here he said he wants to reduce forces in the Middle East, but he's also said he wants to protect the country from ISIS and al-Qaeda. Those two goals may not be completely consistent. So he's got to spend some time figuring out the best policy that maximizes partial accomplishment of both of them. And I think that's what he's been doing on Afghanistan. Also, you might say his struggles on Afghanistan are not entirely different from President Obama's. These two men are not usually, you know, compared to each other as similar kind of thinkers. But on Afghanistan, they've both been torn in ways that have a lot of echoes of each other, trying to get out, but recognizing that if we get out too fast, we could create terrorist sanctuaries again.
Yeah. Sir, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Great insight there.